Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much. I always love listening and watching, listening to the music and listening and watching what is happening between the shows because we are live. So everybody, thank you very much for joining me. My name is Zsuzsanna Hörcsög. I'm your host and this is our show, Zsuzsanna Medium. And as I said, we are live as we can be right now. I'm always here on Tuesdays. You know it very well. So here we go. Now today I have a guest. But before we bring the guest in, I'd like to tell you a short story, and I'm going to be short with my story. Now, if you have been listening to these shows, what I bring to you since the beginning of, beginning of January, when I started having my shows here, Zsuzsanna Medium. Before that time, around October or November last year, I had this idea. Actually, it wasn't my idea. I was just feeling the energy that I needed to find a platform where I could talk to people, where I could have a microphone and I could talk to people. But I knew it wasn't me because it would not be me who would be looking for such opportunity. I would rather watch other people to take part in their lives and live their lives. But I just said to myself, that is where I feel the energy is taking me. We need to find a platform where we can talk to people. But I was a little bit lacking self-confidence. So I put the whole idea to the side. And until December, when one of our producers, lovely Constance, found my work and invited me to have this particular show. So we started at the beginning of January. And then in that very moment, I realized that once we feel that, yes, we've got something, the energy is taking us somewhere, and then our soul needs to do something, then sooner or later we get there where we need to be, because consciousness, God, the spirit, or life is taking us where we need to be. Now, if you watched the very first show on the 12th of January, you remember that I was talking to you about one particular song, which is the John Denver Country Road, Take Me Home, if you remember that song. And that was a song given to me by my father from Spirit about 2 or 3 hours just before that very first show. And then I really refer the song because it's not that the person wants to be in front of a camera and talking, but then the energy needs to come forward and we need to create conversations. We need to invite guests. We need to have inspirational talks here. And then I feel ever since that this has been a conversation. So my song ever since, or the key song, the inspirational song, the song for this show is the John Denver Country Road, Take Me Home. Now, my guest today, he has a song as well. And then yesterday when we talked about this show, we realized that actually it's a little bit spooky how the songs have resonated and how everything was happening in our lives. So let's just bring in our guest today, and he's going to tell us more. So Gary, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very, very well. I know that you are here. We will hear you, we will see you, and as soon as it's possible, you will be with us here on the video so people can watch you and listen to you as well. So while we are bringing you in, oh, there you are.
Here I am.
Hey, yeah. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Lovely to have you here. So Gary Witt, aka the Urban Monk UK, is our guest today. So I'm really grateful that you have accepted my invitation and you are here. And then you have your song. And then we called this show after the song, and your song is Long Road to Richmond. So what is your story, Gary?
Well, thank you for having me, and what an intro. I mean, the movie and the music was absolutely amazing. So I'll start with back in the day when I was born, a long time ago, born into a dysfunctional family, very abusive father, always told I was not good enough and not worthy, and I'm sure people can resonate with that. Society sort of puts perspective on us that we have to live up to this or we have to achieve that. And I spent quite a lot of time growing up thinking that there was always going to be more to life, but I didn't know what. And prior to 2018, I'd had 2 failed marriages and a failed long-term relationship. I was a depressed, suicidal alcoholic based on my childhood. And I grew up believing that things from your childhood didn't really affect your adult life. I left school, joined the Navy, served over in Dominica in 1979, where there was a massive hurricane. Hurricane David destroyed the island. I was part of 16, 17-year-old responsible for moving dead bodies and seeing things happening. I then later on went on to join the police. I was a serving police officer for 20 years. So I was of the mindset that whatever happens as your childhood, you let it go, you man up, you toughen up, and you get on with life. I was married to a lady that had serious mental health issues. So I went for counselling to try and learn coping strategies, if you like, to help her through that sort of illness. And really what that did was it opened up Pandora's box about my past and how I'd been as a child and how I'd been treated by my father and in some respects my mum, but it was more my dad. So struggling with what had happened in the past, I started drinking. I became a serious alcoholic. And as I say, through that was depression and suicidal thoughts. So in 2018, I went to America. I was visiting friends, and all the way up to that period, I'd really, really kind of resonated with America and wanted to live there and was looking for a green card, looking for kind of a way to work over there and live over there. So the more I tried, the harder it became, the less I was successful. And so I was sitting in the trailer where I was staying with friends in 2018. And I'd got a week before I needed to get to Las Vegas. So I've got friends that lived in Richmond in Virginia that I'd not seen since school 40 odd years ago. So I dropped them a message like we do on social media. How are you? How's things? Do you fancy somebody just popping by for a couple of nights? And they said, yeah, that'd be great. So I got my Google Maps out and I looked where California and Richmond were in the map. And being from the UK, I wasn't really, I'd been to Florida in the Navy and never been on the sort of West Coast. So I Googled it and realized it was sort of a 24, 25-hour drive. Well, I thought, I'm restricted by time. I've got a week. So if I drive for 2 days, stay with them for 3 days, and drive back for 2 days, I can fit it in. So off I set. And anybody that knows the route from California to Richmond, there's Bakersfield and Barstow, which is the route that you go down Route 66, which then changes, you turn left to Vegas, or you carry on I-40, which is some parts as Route 66. And that goes all the way through almost to Virginia. So I figured I'd been to Vegas many times, driven to Vegas many times. So I knew what the scenery was like. I'm very much into scenery and the beauty of the actual vista that is America, especially on the West Coast. So I drove from 2 o'clock in the morning in the dark, knowing that I'd seen that scenery anyway. And then when I hit I-40, it was coming up to sort of dawn. And I drove across into the next state. The sun came over the horizon, and there was the hills and the mountains, and it was absolutely amazing. So I continued that journey through all the states across there, determined just to stop in a truck stop and have 2 hours sleep and then carry on driving. Now, the picture behind me is of a truck stop where I stayed. That's a photograph I took just so it resonates with me. And throughout the whole journey, I was focused on just getting to Richmond. That was my key. So I get to Richmond, spent time with my friends, had a really great time, and then did the return journey sort of down to Vegas. Got to Vegas. I always go to Las Vegas. That's where I get my tattoos done from a good friend of mine over there. And I was sat in the hotel room, and I suddenly realized that whole journey was a metaphor for my life. All my life, I've been rushing to get to the final destination. I wanted a green card. I was using people that could get me in to see an attorney. I was using people that would give me a job or sponsor me. And looking back on that trip, going through certain states, there was parts that resonated with me from my childhood that I really would like to have stopped and had a look at. There was Winslow in Arizona. That's featured heavily in an Eagles song that people will know and will have heard before. So I got my Google Maps out on my phone and realized I was literally 10 minutes from Winslow in Arizona. But I realized that if I drove there and stopped and had a look round, then I would be later on and spend less time with my friends. So I drove on. Then you go through Texas and you see the Chattanooga sign, and there's the Chattanooga choo-choo and all those kind of things. There was the meteorite that landed somewhere in Arizona. I wanted to stay there, but I couldn't, so I plowed on and plowed on. And so my story is about the long road to Richmond, and as you said, that song, it's called Modern Day Bonnie and Clyde by Travis Tritt, I think, but the opening line is "It's a long way to Richmond," and it was. And I did something like 2,700 miles in 33 hours. So it was quite a drive. But the realization that I had, that I'd missed all those moments that I'd spent 50 odd years looking at, listening to, loving and appreciating. There was the Navajo Nation. There was all the Indian encampments that I could have gone to, the tourist shops that I could have just to get a feel for that area. And I realized that I'd missed all that. So it made me think. And when I got back to the UK, I started reading books. A Sane New World by Ruby Wax. She's an American comedian, I'm sure you know. She wrote a book about mental health and how the brain works. And then another book called The Chimp Paradox by Professor Steve Peters. And I realized that the brain works in a certain way in terms of what you think is what you create. And that brought me into living in the now. So I'm a public speaker and a life coach. I help people live in the now without fear or anxiety, because as human beings, we tend to identify with events from the past, and we live with hope or fear for the future. And yet neither of those times actually exist. We've really only got now. There is only this very moment. The moment we're talking now, we're going out live. When this finishes, that'll be then, which will then be now. But right now, this is all we've got. So when I realized that the brain works in a certain way, and certain chemicals are created by positivity and negativity, athletes use certain methods of training by thought so that neural pathways are created. So when they come to play their sport, it's instinctive rather than having to think about it. I play guitar, so the more I practice, the more the pathways are created so that I can play it without thinking what note comes next. And then when I moved on from that, I realized that if I'm thinking negatively about the past or negatively about the future, our brain is just like the rest of us. It's just a bundle of vibrating energy, which is very, very similar, if not exactly connected to the universal vibration. So I then moved on to consciousness and enlightenment and realized that for every negative thought I have, I create negative chemicals within the body. So I'm kind of living in the now and thinking about consciousness, but I'm also making myself healthier because my vibration in my body is the natural vibration of the universe rather than the negative one. And depression, and it's been proven scientifically, depression as a thought vibrates at a lower frequency or in a different kind of arena than the natural brain energy does. So if we're living now and we're living with positivity and we're thinking about the universe and love and joy and happiness, the depressive energy can't get in. It's like putting out a force field. And then I realized that me trying to get to where I was getting was like pushing two magnets together. You know, if you push the wrong end of a magnet towards another, it pushes it further away. But if you turn it around, it attracts it. So then I started to look into the law of attraction and the universal law and what we think we get. So the more positive we are, the more we think about what we want. And I don't mean like, I read The Secret, you know, the book The Secret, and I found myself kneeling down, praying for $1 million and praying for a new car and praying for it. And it never happened because the rest of my body was vibrating at a different energy level. I wasn't living now. I was thinking, right, I'm going to get this green card. I'm going to get this new car. And then what if I don't? What if I don't get that green card? So I'm starting to catastrophize and think about failure in the future, and I'm behaving today in order to stop that failure from happening. We're living now without fear or anxiety because yesterday has gone and tomorrow hasn't happened yet. I'm able to deal with those. So I plan for the future, but I don't catastrophize or worry about whether that's actually going to come to effect. I mean, it took me into religion. I'm not religious by any stretch of the imagination, but when I looked at quotes from really deep, meaningful, mindful prophets like Buddha, like Jesus, and even Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor. I mean, he lived before Christ, and he was coming out with some amazing statements about, you know, your life is what you think it is. This was before Think and Grow Rich, and this was before How to Make Friends and Influence People. So Buddha said there are only 2 days in the year that can't be lived, yesterday and tomorrow. So when I learned things like that, it made so much sense that back in the day when people were a little bit more enlightened because they didn't have modern technology and they didn't have phones and they couldn't open an Amazon account to become a millionaire in a year's time. We lived then more or less in the now. So the prophetic things that they said, you know, Jesus said, have no care for tomorrow because tomorrow will take care of the worries of itself. All those little things convinced me that living now was the right thing to do. And from a medical point of view, I am no longer an alcoholic. I don't identify as an abused child. I don't take medication. There was a time when my blood pressure was 200 over 140, and I had a machine that was attached to my arm which measured my blood pressure while I slept. So as I fell to sleep, it dropped to 120 over 80 for the whole night, and then as soon as I woke up, it went straight back to the high level because of environmental situations and worry and me thinking about where am I going to do this? How am I going to pay my bills? What if I don't have enough money to put gas in the car? In my sleeping state, which is more natural and aligned with the universe and consciousness, my blood pressure was perfectly normal. So after I call it an epiphany in Vegas, after my epiphany, the minute I started thinking about just living in the now and speaking and helping people to forget about worry and forget about identifying with the past, my blood pressure now, even while I'm awake, is 120 over 80. So I'm off medication. Everything's worked out amazing, just from a simple mind change. So in terms of the physical side of things, as the body vibrates, we affect that with the way we think. So if we're putting positivity out into the universe, our brain creates neurochemicals and creates the positive chemicals to promote health, but it also links into what we're talking about, the universal energy, and attracting like for like rather than pushing against or fighting. I studied Tai Chi and Qigong in China some years ago, and part of their philosophy is do nothing and nothing remains undone. So I kind of didn't understand what that meant, but it's kind of like by being in the now, we're not forcing the issue, but what's going to happen is already ours. And so we need to just open our mind and our heart and let that come to us. Jesus said, seek and ye shall find, knock and the door will be open to you, ask and you will be given. And that's internally the energy and the spirit and the consciousness with the universe. Because again, as God said, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, but further on, he said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. So if I'm seeking the kingdom of heaven, I need to be looking inside and appreciating who I am and living as best as I can in the now and letting things from the past go because they have no relevance to now. Not catastrophizing about the future because there is only now. Planning, we all have to plan. We all run businesses, or we've got kids, or we've got shopping to do, or holidays to book for. But I was always planning something and then playing backwards and thinking, well, what if I don't get my green card? And what if I don't get to go over there? My life's going to be meaningless. And what am I doing here? What's it all worth? I might as well end it all. And those were the negativity things, or the negative things that were coming into me, creating that illness, which now, just by being here, and resonating with the universe and being spiritual and open, everything tends to come. And on a kind of final note, because I know we're sort of short of time, while I was trying, nothing happened. When I gave in and came back, I spoke to my friend Darren, you know Darren, and he said I should start speaking about this. And the more I spoke about it, everything started coming. I've got a TV show that's about to start filming in the US with Netflix, so I'm getting a green card with that. So while I was trying and pushing and using people, being narcissistic and asking everybody that I'm more important, you need to help me, the universe pushed it all away. The minute I opened up and accepted the universal law and just live for now, I'm speaking with you, I'm speaking to these great people. That's all come from that. I speak with Lizzie in events, as you know, that's all come from that. The TV show with Netflix, that's all come from that. So all I would say to people is forget about yesterday. Don't worry about tomorrow, because those two times don't exist. We're living in this kind of right now. As soon as we finish, it will still be now. When we chat after this show, it will be now. And if things are not going your way, just stop. You have a bit of mindfulness. Think about how you feel. Think about how your feet feel on the floor. When you're washing your hands, just feel how the water and the soap feel on your hands. Because while you're thinking about that, your brain can't be thinking about what it was you were worried about. So there's another show about mindfulness, and we'll chat about mindfulness later on. But when people think about, oh, woe is me, and I'm this, and people say I'm that, or I identify with being overweight, or I identify with being an alcoholic or an abused child, you're not now. Where are you now, right now, this very minute? What problems do you have right now? And if you can think of one, just do a bit of mindfulness. Wash your hands, make a cake. Nobody can put the ingredients to a cake together and think about why they're worried, you know? So it's little things like that that help me get through. And if people want to reach out and contact me, then obviously I'm on Facebook on Long Road to Richmond, and an email address. My website's being created at the moment. I've got a book just about to be published. My email address is urbanmonkuk@gmail.com. So anybody wants to reach out, they can do. We can have a chat. We can discuss what issues that they're worried about. And that's really basically it. That's me in a nutshell. Abused child, depressed alcoholic, suicidal, and now just from that one road trip, that long road to Richmond, it's absolutely turned my life around.
Mm-hmm. I tell you what, just listening to you, absolutely amazing, you know, your story, and it brought me two things. One of them is, if our audience, if you remember, a few months back, we had Stephanie J. King, who was channeling a family member, and then she put the book together because of that material, what she received, and that person in spirit consciousness was saying had actually a little bit similar life, you know, just going after things and trying to do the objective things. And then from that realm, you know, speaking from my side as a medium, from his consciousness, he was saying that only if I had known that was love and that was the quality of the meaning of life, I would have lived my life differently, you know. Yeah. So that's one thing. It just came to me right now. And the other thing is, you know, when I'm looking at the scenery behind you, it's quite metaphorical in that sense that, you know, the sun, it's lovely, thank you. It's you know, the sun is going down, or the sun is coming up, you know. Yeah.
It was the most amazing truck stop I've ever been to be honest. That photograph's not filtered, there's nothing on it, it's just as it was there and then, as I arrived ready to have a quick sleep and then just move on. Yes, and that's life. That's life. It's the wonder of the moment, just being there to capture that is so prophetic. It was there, and that's the story of my life, really.
I tell you what, absolutely, and then may you have many years, you know, enjoying it, you know, in that way, in that sense. Now, because we've got a minute or two, we were talking about creating an event where people can find us. So we are thinking about doing a workshop in August. So are we doing it?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So I'm just putting it out to the audience if you are interested. It's going to be on the 14th of August. It's a Saturday, and our time is 2 p.m. EST, 7 p.m. GMT, and 11 a.m. the other side. So that is then we have the time zones together. Listen out to the announcement, because I'm going to talk to you about next week and another little announcements. So it's going to be the 14th of August. Whether you are a lady or a gentleman or anything, whatever you are, qualifying yourself, that sense of being, living our lives, whether you are in a relationship this way or that way, how you are creating your life. So we are looking forward to talking to you and meeting you there. So Gary, thanks very much for joining me here. It was an absolute pleasure to talk to you here. Well, I think we will be doing something even more after that. So thank you very much for being here. I've got 10 seconds. The rest of our audience, thank you very much for joining me here. This was our show, Zsuzsanna Medium. I was Zsuzsanna Hörcsög, a medium. You can find me on my website, zsuzannamedium.com, or social media as Zsuzsanna Medium, where I do live readings, conversations, and all kind of various things. Then I'm always here on Tuesdays, 3:30 p.m. EST and 8:30 p.m. GMT. We are sending you lots of love, many, many blessings, and live in the very moment. I'm grateful. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.